it's also something to be said of there's such a good feeling, and you spoke about it earlier, of just getting a flurry of reservations. Like you get that notification, it's like new reservation, new reservation, new reservation. It's such a good feeling. And at surface level for a host, it may seem as if your property is crushing it, right? Because I'm getting reservations coming in left and right.
Yep.
I'm killing it. I think the honest and the real perspective of if you are in fact doing well is, okay, great, all those are coming in. Take a look at your books and understand your numbers, right? Get into the expenses and see what you're netting at the end of the day. And it may feel like you're crushing it from a reservation perspective, but you look at your expenses and you're like, shoot, this thing's not making as much money as I thought, right?
Yep.
That feeling goes away pretty quickly, because now you're like, I didn't realize I was upside down each month. Alrighty, welcome back to another edition of the Hideaway Show Behind the Curtain. The new silo cabins are launched, with more on the way. Mike, how are we doing?
Hey, we're good, man. Just got a flurry of reservations and trying to click as fast as I can before we start this, make sure everyone's good.
And it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, I'll take it.
For
I
sure.
was actually talking with Shane earlier, and he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "I got like 8 last night." It's just nuts how like all of a sudden people are just like, "Hey, you know what? Forgot to book my reservation. Let's go crazy."
You know what? It's all those
So,
kids going back to school, and you know what's happening? Parents can breathe, they can exhale. They're like, all right, now it's my turn to
yep,
relax and go enjoy
yep,
myself. Kids are off to school. Let's make it happen. So
yep.
that's exactly what it is. But it's nice to see those reservations coming in, and you were heads down with launching the silos. You kind of, I think, came up for air, and then what, in 2 days you're going right back down
Yeah,
there and
yeah, they disappear
launching
again.
launching a couple more. But
Yep.
I'm excited for the two. It's two, right? Two more
We
we're
got
launching.
two more this week, this
Yep.
weekend, and then two the first week of October.
Yeah, it's gonna be tremendous. I'm excited to see those, and
Yep.
I'm also excited to see the one that I think is different out of all of them is the one single silo itself. I'm curious to see how that one's coming along.
Dude, to be honest, I think that one's going to be our winner. Smallest
Really?
one we got. Yeah, smallest one we got. And our just, it's going to be like the most standout unique. It's just the silo. Like,
Yep.
I could see that one doing really well.
Yeah, I'm
So,
excited to see that one coming
yeah.
to life. But with that being said, let's dive into the topic today. This one's kind of been fresh on my mind, and I've seen a few people talking about it recently. But it's everyone. I'll say, I'll say everyone loosely, but everyone in the short-term rental space. I always feel like when they go and invest in properties, they look at two things. One is from a tax perspective. Everyone understand, for most part, understands the bonus depreciation, and how all that works, and a lot of people look at it from that perspective. But then on the flip side of that, everyone also says, I need a property that makes this amount in gross revenue, right? I need a property that makes 100,000, or my property currently makes 100,000. And at surface level, I think that comes across as like, man, they're crushing it. They're making they got $100,000 cabin. That's tremendous. Or $150,000 cabin. Great. But
Could
what
be.
happened? Yeah. But what happens when you pull back the curtain and you lift the hood and look underneath the hood? And what if that property's netting only $1,000 per year? Then is it is it a good investment? Was it worth it? I think a lot of people look at it from that perspective
Yeah.
of, they just simply start at that gross number and they don't take into consideration what it's going to net at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, like that's a really good way for advanced real estate investors to hide things. You
Yep.
know, oh, we're making, $300,000 on this property. And it's like, oh, that's fantastic. What you don't know is that there's 8 different investors and there's a full staff of people that are working there. And like at the end of the day, just like you said, out of the 300 grand, they're spending $297,000 in order to get it actually like maintained and looking the way that it is, because there's just so much that goes into the back end, which
Yep.
means that they're making $3,000 a year.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think in any business that's risky, if you've only got 3,000 left over after expenses, but if they're doing any work on that place, it's not worth it. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. And I guess there is a counter argument to what we're saying on that front is maybe it doesn't cash flow today, but maybe on the back end it's, you're paying down the debt. It's appreciating at the, in 5 years, it's gonna make money. But I think what people don't realize is like, okay, for those 5 years, right? If you're making no money on that property, is that okay? And I think that's
Right.
where it's a little bit subjective of is it a good investment? Maybe it is, right? Maybe making only $1,000 cash flow per year is a good investment for them because
Yep.
this thing in 5 years is going to, double in price, and they're gonna, the making 12,000 or 24,000 cash flow in the year is nothing compared to it making 700,000 because it doubled in value across
Yep.
5 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's a
that's the most common confident answer you can get from real estate investors, right? It depends.
yeah,
Absolutely, it
it's
depends.
It's always it depends. But
Yep.
I just think a lot of people get hung up on the gross revenue number, right? It's an easy number to throw out, especially if you're, promoting on social content, or if you're on a podcast, or if you're just talking about it, right? It's a lot easier to say like, yeah, that cabin makes 120,000. This one is on pace to make 80,000, right? It's a lot easier to do that versus like it makes 80,000, but OpEx is about 45%. Therefore, if you take out interest, if you take out this, our net cash flow without taxes before this is $2,000, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier to just say it grosses 100,000, makes 100,000. It's a great
Yep.
property.
Yep.
So,
Well, even terms like NOI, that I think a lot of people use for that like ending after everything's paid kind of valuation. It's I'll say it's like a more standard in real estate than I think any other general term that I've found in other industries. But it's still like some people throw out an NOI number and it's like net, right? It's after you pay a mortgage, it's after you pay everything else. And which is a little bit off, right? Or other people are just throwing out, well, hey, I paid the electric and the cleaner and that's my NOI. And it's like, not really. You've still got insurance. You've still got, water and garbage and all the other stuff that goes into it. So there's a little bit of ambiguity with that. And I think that's the importance of like really getting people's books and understanding, not from your perspective, not what is my definition of NOI and what does that look like here because it says NOI, right? But the
mm-hmm.
actual number. And I think what you're saying, like gross revenue is a great way to start. And you know that the demand is there. And then what I would be looking for after that is like, what is their actual profit? And if their actual profit is not good, are there ways that you can fix that just by cleaning up the expense side? Right. Because if you've already got the demand, you've already got the money coming in, that's a great start. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got systems and processes and people that you can put in place that will eliminate, or AI now, right, that'll eliminate some of those expense sections or expense lines, then you're in a fantastic place. And then if you can boost revenue even more, then by all means, like go for it.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's also something to be said of there's such a good feeling. And you spoke about it earlier of just getting a flurry of reservations. Like you get that notification. It's like new reservation, new reservation, new reservation. It's such a good feeling. And at surface level for a host, it may seem as if your property is crushing it, right? Because I'm getting reservations coming in left and right. I'm killing it. I think the honest and the real perspective of if you are in fact doing well is okay, great. All those are coming in. Take a look at your books and understand your numbers, right? Get into the expenses and see what you're netting at the end of the day. And it may feel like you're crushing it from a reservation perspective, but you look at your expenses and you're like, shoot, this thing's not making as much money as I thought, right?
Yep.
That feeling goes away pretty quickly because now you're like, I didn't realize I was upside down each month. I thought I had enough money in the bank. Or maybe on the flip side, it's better than you thought. You're like, you get a lot of reservations coming in. You're like, where are we sitting from an expense perspective? And net perspective.
Yeah.
Get in. The biggest thing is just, and we've realized this too, is getting into the books, actually like looking through the line items and understanding where the expenses are going, where your money is flowing in and out, because it really starts to shed light on, okay, how can I continue to optimize this property? If you don't have a good grasp on your expenses and those things are just running wild because you signed up for some subscription you saw on a podcast that some other host was promoting, you found some ranking software that you think you need, and I'm not saying these are bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I think a lot of people just like, they're like, ooh, like I'll plug all these softwares in, and some of them either forget about them or they're like, I'm not using them, and they let that expense float for longer than they would like.
Yep. I'm
So
with you. I think it's too, each business is different. I think they all kind of come back to the core, flow of what do you have coming in, what are you spending, and what's left over. Right. And that's pretty much business in a nutshell. Increase one, decrease the other, you'd be in a great place. But I think for this industry in particular, one of my biggest learning lessons was coming from the marketing space. It's relatively straightforward in the marketing space, right? There's very few variable expenses other than ad spend, but typically you don't increase ad spend unless you're making a ton of money, right?
Right.
So as you go up and you're making more, you just keep cranking in some more ad spend and get even more profit.
Right.
It's like a machine at that point. Here, one of the things that I found is there's bigger numbers, right? The mortgage payment is typically bigger than the subscription to Loom that you pay
Right.
each month, that kind of thing, right? And then you've got more of them, 20 properties and 20 mortgage payments. There's a lot bigger numbers. So there's a lot of stuff moving around that's not technically yours because you need to use it the first and next month. But then in addition to that, we've got things like landscapers that are phenomenal landscapers, do a great job at landscaping, but man, getting them to send me an invoice is like pulling teeth. So they'll
Mm-hmm.
wait 6 months, and it's always slow season. It's when they slow down, they get the bandwidth, the time, and they're like, oh yeah, I need to get paid. And all of a sudden they send me an invoice for like $10,000. And I'm like, hold on, I just paid off all our credit cards, all our debt, all our, you know what I mean? Paid
Yep.
everything down, put that extra mortgage payment in because we're feeling rich,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden this invoice comes and I'm like, oh man, what a wipeout. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just completely crushes you. So really having a grasp on, I guess, the financial management, the cash flow of your business, the expected expenses, the past
Yeah.
expenses, and all that, and really watching it with fine tooth comb.
Yeah. I think you made a good point there of the expected expenses, right? Is you understand the recurring ones you have monthly, but if you forget that the landscaper has done 3 or 4 weeks worth of, work and you weren't, you were expecting it a while ago, but things got busy, right? Life got crazy. Maybe you bought a couple other properties and you overlooked it, and then all of a sudden you do get that invoice for 10,000. That's going to be unless you're proactively prepared, you've set aside money for it, and heading into slow season, for a lot of hosts, that's going to kick them in the teeth, and they're going to
Yep.
feel that pretty quickly.
Yeah. And
So
that'll eat away your profit. Like people
right,
don't understand. You can make really good money for 6 months. And then you have, in the long term or the midterm rentals that we have, you have 1 or 2 vacant months and your whole year's profit is gone. Right.
mm-hmm.
You still got appreciation, you still got some tax benefits. So it's not that it's not worth it. It's just that you got to be really proactive on it. And for the long term rental that we have, it's like if I am not aware, like hyper aware of when they check out, and then when I need to get the painter in, when I need to get the handyman in, when I need to get it listed and all that, then all of a sudden, like everything that I've been like smooth sailing, everything's good, watch this money come in kind of mentality towards is going to disappear. I'm going to use
Yep.
that towards 2 mortgage payments and it's gone. So I think it's a little bit better on the Airbnb side, but very much can catch up to you because of the things like the landscaper, things like deferred maintenance in the cabins if you're not getting in there frequently enough, and you will watch your NOI go from a great number to a terrible number. But I think
Right.
too, from a business perspective, if you've got a few of these cabins, you can sell them based on an NOI model. It's
Right.
not just the appraised value of the real estate. So if you've got really good gross revenue and low expenses, then when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, this house appraised for 500,000," you can say that's fantastic and like laugh a little bit under your breath and say the NOI divided by cap rate model here for the business valuation of this, say, a small portfolio. You got 2 or 3 properties that are doing that. Puts each of them at $1 million because of what they're generating. There
Right.
are people in the world that will buy that specifically for that, that revenue number, that NOI number as a
Mm-hmm.
business, because that's what it is. It's an investment for them.
Yep. And I think with that, more and more, we're going to start to see that shift happening, even with Airbnb announcing that host fee shift that starts in October. Is having business assets to go with that is important, right? If you have a cash flowing property, but it's crushing on Airbnb, but I don't have any emails, I don't have any social follow, I have nothing
Yep.
else to go with it, right? I have this listing on Airbnb that's crushing it for me. Someone may not see as much value in that from a business valuation perspective because, again, if Airbnb shifts its model or shifts fees around or
Yeah.
decides that whatever they at the end of the day decide, as we always talk about, then is it at the end of the day, is it really, it is a business, but is it really a business that someone's going to want to come in and purchase and take over
Yep.
and pay from the NOI perspective?
It,
So
it is, it is important to acknowledge that too. Like in my definition, if I can't do something and immediately get customers, then I'm supporting someone else's business.
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's hard for someone who's listing on Airbnb only to say, you know what, if I go do this, then by the end of today, I will have 3 or 4 new reservations,
Yep.
right? I don't know how that would be the case, right? Unless you're like doing some hack, you pause and unpause and all of a sudden get it, right? So we are at the mercy of Airbnb for most of those things. However, if you have your own email list, your own advertising campaigns, your own dedicated customers, and you say, hey, I've got this promo, right? We used to do it all the time in the e-commerce space with yoga pants and things like that, where it's like, you know, last chance, we've only got 6 left in this size or 6 left in this color or 50% off, right? And we send out an email and all of a sudden, like it was like instant. You know, you see people right away, oh, I want this, right? You created
Mm-hmm.
the urgency and you get those sales. It's a little bit harder in this space because people have to figure out the time to book and whatnot, but you can still very much control your business from that perspective.
Yep.
And it almost has to be off Airbnb in order to do that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
So it's again, it's going to become more important. I think direct bookings, I heard on another podcast the other day that direct bookings are on the rise. I think people are starting to now realize how important social content is, a well-designed property. And when they start to see these changes on Airbnb, it's no longer the days of just list it and it'll book out and you make money. Life is great. You know, I got 10 of these Airbnbs that I don't need to do anything for. It's passive. Look at me go. Right.
yep.
Direct bookings are becoming more and more and more important. And I think Airbnb recognizes that to where they're starting to, whether they want to admit it or not, putting things in place that minimize or make it more challenging for you to take someone that finds you on Airbnb and convert them over to a direct guest, whether that be now or in the future. I think there's maybe some ethical things to say if Airbnb generated the lead for you for the property and you say like, hey, like don't book here, like come over here.
Yep.
But if they book and stay with you and provide their email address to you and then are now part of your newsletter, oh, I see that you have a direct booking site and I can save money. That's more than fine. And that is what we do day in and day out. So
Yep.
the last thing with this I wanted to mention is, we talk about going through and making sure your expenses are in order, making sure none of those are running wild, and looking at more than just the gross revenue number, but also remembering that you shouldn't just, twiddle your thumbs and because, we calculate and our revenue is expected to increase by 4%, expenses are expected to increase by, 4%, whatever those numbers are. But I think a lot of times if you're doing the right things for your property, you can allow revenue to outpace your expenses, right? So as you add something that's going to increase revenue, normally expenses don't increase exponentially with that, right? They're not keeping pace with that revenue number.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is if you don't do anything to increase revenue, I think that expense number starts to trickle up, not from a monthly recurring expense perspective, but from wear and tear on the property, deferred maintenance, something coming up that's unexpected, right? Then your margins between your gross revenue and your net start to shrink year over year because, oh, we need a new water filtration system. Oh, the HVAC decided it wanted to stop working. Oh, the septic system backed up, whatever it may be, right? There's all these things you cannot put into a pro forma. Sure, you can set aside cash reserves, and that's why we mention it. But eventually, unless you continue to optimize and elevate what you're doing from a revenue perspective, those margins are just going to slowly but surely start to get
Yep.
squeezed. And one of those days, you'll start to realize and be like, oh, shoot, I need to do something. But
Yep.
then you also then run into a challenge of, okay, well, I've used the cash reserves to cover myself for so long and I haven't been saving. Then it's like, okay, great. I gotta build a cool unique hot tub like Mike and Jordan are talking about. Sure, go get the 0% interest credit card. That will work if you do it the right way. But if you're gonna utilize savings for that and you haven't been saving and you use all your cash reserves to basically
Yep.
cover your ass for the last 2 years because your property was basically chewing it up from deferred maintenance and things like that, then what are you gonna do?
Yep.
There's
And
other
it's,
strategies, but
well, it's amazing, like, how dynamic everybody is. Some people do it one way, some people do it the other, but there are a lot of people that just don't plan for it. They don't plan at all. And then all of a sudden it hits them and it never comes in one. Nobody says like it comes in waves of one, right? It's
mm-hmm,
always waves of three. And it's like, oh, like someone broke your HVAC and the whole thing's got to be replaced. Right. And
yep,
then after that, it's like you've got a leak and like the whole floor flooded or something like that. And
mm-hmm,
it's like, yeah, there's insurance. A lot of people say, oh, there's insurance. I'm like, that's cool, but you're going to be shut down for 2 weeks waiting on that check to come in. When the check comes in, you got to get your contractor back on schedule because it was delayed the previous week. Whereas if you just say like, I've appropriately planned for this, I've got everything here, But it takes what you're saying in order to do that. It takes just really good due diligence on your numbers, watching your numbers. Like I almost want to say daily. Actually, I have a buddy, love him to death. I had a guy that I used to work with who has never had his own company. His wife was a hairstylist, and one day he came to me and he's like, I don't understand. He's like, I don't understand how the the obsession with business owners to look at their bank accounts every single morning. Right. And I was like, to me, I was like, I look at my bank account every single morning when I get up. Right. And then typically when I get there, I start out with like a QuickBooks review. I'm like, where's everything coming and going? What are the fees that I'm seeing and the expenses that I'm seeing and all that? And as a non-entrepreneur, I was like, I guess I get it. Like you just have the security of someone else doing that for you. But the heartbeat of your business is what's left over. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you need the stuff coming in. Yeah, you've got your expenses. But at the same time, it's the heartbeat is like what is left over there. And if you're doing well, then you'll know exactly what's going on with that. And if you don't know, then that's concerning.
Right.
So,
Yep. Yeah, and
yeah.
I think it's continuing to monitor those expenses, but then also finding ways to elevate your property to make more money, because then you're not going like this from a margins perspective. You're going like this because you're doing the right thing. Sure, you're gonna have a little bump in expenses because maybe you add a sauna. Okay, electric bill's gonna go up a little bit, right?
Yep.
And you're gonna have that initial expense, right? How
Yep.
quickly does that revenue keep going up that it just that margin grows very quickly?
Yep.
And then again, sure, your gross revenue 200,000, but again, at the end of the day, cash flow is important to some investors. So you do also need to factor in what are my expenses, running at what percentage. If you're running at your operating expenses are 85% of your gross revenue, probably not the best margins right there,
Yep.
versus running at like 25%.
Yep.
So it's just being very aware of that. And at the end of the day, gross revenue is important, because if you're only making 20,000 gross revenue, like, and your expenses are 30,000, that's a terrible deal.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than just that top level number that people need to be aware of and make sure they're
Well, and I
they're
almost
looking
think
into.
I encourage them to like push back. And someone's having a conversation with you, and it's like, oh my gosh, this cabin's flowing 300 grand a year. I'm like, that's fantastic. Tell me more about it, right? What are your
Yes.
expenses? Who do you hire to run it? How do you keep it looking like that? Where'd you find your landscaper to do such cheap work if you're quoting this gross revenue number, making it sound like you're making a ton of money,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, maybe they've got the solution. If so, bring them on the podcast. I would love to talk to them because it seems like everybody's more and more expensive every year.
Yep.
But that
Yep.
being said, there is, like you're saying, a lot more to it than just that gross revenue. On that note, though, I do want to add too, it's impressive. If you've got a cabin that's pulling $300,000 a year, I think there's an initial conversation where it's like, hey, firstly, good job, right? For
Mm-hmm.
anybody to be able to find that many people, you've only got 365 units that you can sell, right? So for anybody to create something that is that special, to have 300 grand, I don't care if your occupancy is low and your daily rate's high, or daily rate's low and your occupancy's high, there's demand,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you've got that going for you, fantastic. But then dig in. So, well,
Yep.
tell me more about that. Are you spending
Well,
310 grand a year in ads just to get the 300 grand a year in revenue? Like,
I've talked to some people who have the nicest cabins in the world, and they're even mentioning to me, they're like, Jordan, it's a struggle in the back end. Everyone thinks it's this glorious thing because I have all these followers on Instagram. I have, people are just like, this person's just crushing it, right? I need to figure out what they're doing. And you talk to them behind the scenes and they're like, how do I, like, I'm spending so much to deliver a property that demands this much money,
yep,
but I'm not making any on the back end. And to them, they're a stressed out business owner and a host that's, on surface level, it looks great, but they're
yep.
stressing out because they're like, I'm only bringing in, $10,000 a year on this thing, and I'm busting my tail day in and day out.
My favorite example of that is the 4 Hour Work Week. That book got me into entrepreneurship, and I'm so grateful for it. Right?
Yep.
That the Tim Ferriss, the author of that book, works 40 hours a day. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
insane how much that guy works, dude. And I know some people that have like hung out with him, and they're like, he's just hustling all the time. And maybe yes, maybe he's got a business that he's doing 4 hours a week because he's putting 80 hours a week in the one next door, and he's got that one to the point of really dialing it in. And don't get me wrong, some great principles in the book, highly recommend it. But at the same time, like there is a lot more that goes behind the scenes than what people actually see, especially
Yep.
on social media.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Now, maybe not the case for someone who owns one property, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and that's going to continue to increase as this, world of short-term rentals continues to evolve and elevate. You're going to have to keep up with the Joneses and compete with these other properties that
yep.
are out there. Otherwise, you're going to get squeezed out. And it was a good run for you in the the Airbnb
Yep.
short-term rental space. But
Aren't we seeing some of that right now? Like the people that are telling us, oh, the market's slowing down, no, our
mm-hmm.
revenue's down. This is a third year in a row. I'm like, interesting. I've been there for two of those, and ours are at peak highs. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
so is it that I don't know. I get so jaded in this like topic because so many people, I'm like, they're not doing anything to upgrade. In fact, they're
Mm-hmm.
resisting. I'm like, we'll go to them. We'll say, hey, look, we'd love to like manage your cabin. You need to do this, 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 and this. And they're like, why would I do that? This cabin's been doing great. I don't want to do that.
Yep.
I don't want to work with you. You're not going to like keep up with everything else that's going on. And then all of a sudden they're like, it's not doing well anymore. What happened? It's like the exact same conversation, right? You stayed stagnant. Any business that does that anywhere in the world is going to eventually get overrun. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. Cabins are being renovated. Cabins are being redesigned, built, adding amenities left and right.
Yep.
And, not that we're seeing the same thing, but we are realizing the same thing in the Red River Gorges when we look at properties from where we are today, as opposed to where we were a year ago. There are a lot of nice properties starting to enter that market, right? And that's why we're elevating and looking at our properties of like, okay, how can we take this one from here to here? Like, what's the next step to get it to keep it at the top, 5 to 10% in that market?
I wish I could find like the original research that I did on the market. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like 338 Airbnbs. I looked at probably 337 of them, and
Mm-hmm.
they were ugly. Like I
Mm-hmm.
looked and I
They
was
were
like,
cabins.
yeah. I was like, how is this making this much money? It doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden, we
Mm-hmm.
put a couple nicer ones in. It's like full, right? And
Yep.
it's like, oh, there just isn't the players in the area have not leveled their game up to that competitive level for some of the other more popular markets, and now it's starting to do that. So
Yep. Yeah. And you're starting to hear a lot of those people who had those basic properties before. They're like, the market's becoming saturated. And it's like, it's far from saturated. It's just the properties that haven't changed are just slowly, as we've talked about, getting squeezed down to the bottom. And they're the ones that are saying, the sky is falling. Things aren't working anymore. It's very important to stay on top of things and change. So, hey guys, real quick, just want to jump in here and say, if this show has been sparking ideas and helping you level up your short-term rental game, we would be so grateful if you drop us a 5-star review. It helps us and this show reach even more people who want to build wealth through unique, unforgettable stays, just like you. So thanks for being a listener. Now, back to the show. With that being said, Mike, I know you got 15 minutes till you have to go to what you have next. But I selfishly want to do the Would You Book It segment. So I'm going to go fast through this. I know you got one. I got one geared up here. I went first last week. If you're prepared, you can go first this week.
I am not prepared.
Okay, I'm going first. Sweet.
Yep, you go. I know you want to do it anyway.
I'm a giddy little kid when it comes to this.
I have it in my history. I just have to pull it up from last week when we were looking at it.
That is all good. So let me pull
I
this
found
up
it.
here. Look at you go. you dog. Wow.
Go ahead.
I'm still going first. Too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
So anyways, for anyone that's new listening here, Would You Book It? We do this each week, or most weeks, I will say. And we look at it from a guest and host perspective. From a guest perspective, would you go and book this property? And from a host perspective, looking at it from that lens, would you host this property? And we typically try to find properties that are unique or have something that's just not that you're seeing every day. So with that being said, Mike, you're probably going to think I'm on to a theme here. And again, no, it is not a school bus, but I've had a property with this feature or amenity before. And what we are looking at here is the Slideway Hideaway at Okie Dokie Cabins and Castles.
Okie Dokie Cabins and Castles. All right.
This thing has slides everywhere. And when I say everywhere, they got an indoor one, they got an outdoor one. They got Sasquatch in in the sauna.
Dang.
They got an outdoor space here, killer view. There's another slide there. There's a slide from the top that goes down to the main living space. There's another slide.
Slide away Hideaway.
There's a slide outside. I think there's one more. Sasquatch taking a shower. Look at that shower though. Look at that.
Dude,
Dang.
what's the Sasquatch play?
Hey, it's in Broken Bow, so Sasquatch must be
All
big
right.
there as
All
well.
right.
So we where is the other? There's another slide. Okay, so I came across this on Instagram, and there was another slide somewhere that like the guests went down the basement. They're like, oh my gosh, there's a second one. There are a lot of photos. I mean, okay, let's get over the Sasquatch thing. I get it. Like, I get it must be important there, but let's pump the brakes. This property's so big though. I think we're still going down the list here. See, like this right here,
Dang, that's cool stuff.
maybe some overkill on the photos, right? You probably could hone back a little bit. Like,
What were you saying the other day? It was like 75 photos or 50 photos. It's like
yeah, I
a
think
peak.
the sweet spot's like 40 to 50. Now, if it's a bigger place,
Yeah.
maybe you could justify more, but some of these seem very repetitive and the person couldn't decide. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's got a slide built into it. It's got Uncle Squatch over here on the wall, Sasquatch here. Got some. It also, this place, I think I saw online, it says 16 plus here. It's got 7 bedrooms,
Jeez.
18 beds. So at a bare
Jeez.
minimum with 18 beds, it could sleep, what, 36?
Yeah. If you do the math right.
So with that being said, thoughts on this from a guest perspective? Obviously, you wouldn't book it for just like a weekend getaway with just you and Courtney, but would you stay here?
If somebody else booked it and invited me to go there for a reason, yes.
Okay.
I would never book it. And I would be disappointed if Courtney did. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just I just to me it doesn't do anything for me. And to be
It's
honest, I don't think I'd host it either.
Could you imagine like what it takes to clean that thing?
Yep.
Oh my
They
gosh.
they yeah, I immediately I go in my head to there's going to be someone who goes down the slide and there's like a smudge mark or someone left a sock or something. And I could
Something gets
just,
missed.
yeah, I could just see like asking our cleaners to like slide down the slide, polish it up every time with like that, or the alternative is you charge the guest the cleaning fee and you get everything like set up so that you can do it appropriately. And then you start getting the complaints. Oh, it's $200 to clean it. That's ridiculous. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
And maybe
I think it's
maybe if you're going as a group of 36 people, then
Yes.
maybe a $200 cleaning fee is not that big of a
yes,
deal,
perfectly
right?
fine. Perfectly
And maybe
fine.
I'm sure they are well equipped to where they probably have 6 cleaners
Yep.
doing this thing at once in Broken Bow, which is, very established market, or I think it's near
Yep.
there. So you're only if you got invited from a guest and a
Yep.
no from a host.
Yep.
Gotcha. So for me, I'm with you. I've been to a property not of this size or with a slide, but I've been to a big property that slept like 20 plus people.
Yep.
And it was one of those, like, it's cool to be invited to it because you never really stayed in that big of a house before. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I'm with you. I wouldn't book it as a guest and as a host. It would be cool to have a slide and all the amenities within here. But that was the first thing I thought too, is like, how in the world are we
Yep.
going to get this thing cleaned in time? There's going to be more things in place. Sure, you get bigger reservations potentially for it, but you still have to clean it, and you'd have to block the counter. Maybe you can't do same day turns, right?
Yeah.
They can't clean this thing, I imagine, in 5 hours.
There's no way.
So
There's no way. And if they can, great. Man, maybe if they got like 10 people working on it, but at
Right.
the same time, it's everything, right? It depends because there's a way to make it work. It's just, yeah, for me, it's like, I think that's the reason for no is because I know what I've got today. And I'd rather stick with those problems.
Yep. Yeah. Some people love the big properties, like investors that love these big properties. I'm with you though. I really like the one ones, two twos,
Yep.
maybe a 3-3-2 is where we kind of draw the line. So
Yep. So
But
cool.
with
Well,
that-
taking the last. Oh wait, you said you're with me. Never mind. I was going to
I'm
ask
with you. I'm writing. I'm
So-
aligned with you.
Yep. Cool. So going into, I've got a bumping up against the call here. So the last 8.5 minutes that we've got here.
Oh, we got it.
This is my would you book it? I'm gonna straight up tell you, I would love the heck out of this. I want this place. I would stay in it and I would book it, and it gives me the reason I was trying to pull it up from last week. It gives me an idea for the next house that we're going to launch in October. The one that we're managing, they need a pulley system, and I'm going to
Oh
send them
yeah.
this one. That's what made me think of it. So,
I didn't even see the poll yet. That's
yep,
cool.
I know that's the pulley, right? And they hide that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in Missouri, of all places, Bradleyville, Missouri. It's gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Little tree house, probably just a little couple getaway type thing, pumping the water all the way up to the top.
Yep.
Um, awesome views. It looks like ton of windows, little creepy
That looks
bathroom.
like that looks like it's like built underneath. Like you have
Yep.
to go outside or down to get to it.
I'd say it looks like
Yeah.
foundation here with the concrete on top.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a window, so you're not underground.
Mm-hmm.
But this is actually something that I was looking at too that I like. Maybe that's the bathroom right there. The way that
Could be.
they did this, the little, I don't know if it's a koi pond or a little hot tub.
I think it's a hot tub.
Yeah. But look at like, we always talk about like hard lines. Like, they're not as hard as they could be, but they look really good. The way they
Mm-hmm.
did their mulch, their walkways, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that dude, go back, go back. Look at that photo. That's where you go
Yep.
in.
That's the
That's what you're
bathroom.
saying. Okay.
That's probably the
Wow.
bathroom right there, I imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know where it would come out, but yeah, it's super sick.
That's
I
cool.
love this.
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where we've talked about enough of these that I think we need to do some sort of under house entertainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
think we should coin that. It's like a UHE, right? Like the under house entertainment area.
That's
I don't know
smart.
what it'll be, but yeah, something like that. So, but just
That's
the views,
cool.
the chairs, yeah, they've got everything kind of like thought out here. I think it's super cute. I think they did a really good job. Is that Shelby? These aren't
I don't
Shelby's
think
photos,
it's
but it looks
no,
kind
I
of
don't
like his Jeep.
yeah, I don't think that's his.
Yeah,
It's interesting. That's cool property.
yeah.
There's a few things I would change about it, but overall it's
So
really
would you
cool.
book it?
I would definitely book it. I think it'd be a cool place to stay. The bathroom concept is very interesting. I'm sure I would be on board. My wife, maybe not so much. Um, just because I think she'd be like, the bathroom's weird. It's,
Isn't it
whatever.
funny how people pick like one thing?
Right. But again, that's the importance of what we do is like making sure all the details are as
Yep,
much as possible are addressed.
yep,
I think it's a cool property, cool concept to it. I think there's some improvements that could be made from
yep,
a host perspective. With that being said, I would host it. I think it
yeah,
would be a very cool, unique property, and with the right photos and video content, that thing would absolutely crush.
yeah.
Plus, it has a view. Thanks for showing that. Now I'm hungry, so I'm a yes on both fronts, guest and host.
Cool. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's quite the view too. I
Yeah,
thought that now that's what we got to do. Have a tower that high.
yeah.
Maybe the stairs be a pain in the butt, but
Fine. We're talking about
that's
their other tower. We're like, don't go here.
don't go here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
If you climb this one, you will be on a cell phone tower. It's not ours.
Yep. Yeah.
So
No, that's
yeah,
cool. I think again, like that's a property that's very cool and unique, and I think more people would know about it if it was, maybe a few tweaks made on the outside, some additional amenities, and
yep,
marketed. If
yep,
people knew about it, I think that place would crush.
yep. 100.
And sure,
percent
maybe it does, but like it could crush even more if there was more awareness for that property. So
I completely agree. I also want to acknowledge that I did not know Missouri had views like that. So thanks for
Missouri
opening my eyes.
surprisingly has some cool places.
Yep.
You have to go more south and east a little bit, but once you do, it does have some cool places. So it's
Yeah.
because you're starting to inch down towards Arkansas. And no offense to anyone from Missouri listening, but it always seems like it's very noticeable once you go from Missouri across the border into Arkansas. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the road we take typically into Arkansas is just a string of bad houses, but it's
Yep.
like, wow, there's no, there's no like car parts left in the front yard. Now we're in Arkansas type of thing.
Yeah.
But Missouri does have some very, very cool spots. Branson is one of those areas that's really blowing up.
Yeah.
So, well,
Branson's
cool, man.
crazy.
Yeah, Branson's wild. They said it's like outpacing Orlando, or is it Orlando where Disney World is? Disneyland?
I
I
don't
always
know.
forget. I think it's Disney World. I think they said, yeah. Anyways, Branson is becoming very popular, and that's a market where big properties are like 10 plus bedroom properties are very
Yeah.
crucial, which again for me, I don't think my cup of tea, but Anyways, with that being said, I know you got a call, you got things to do, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. That does it. Another amazing episode of the Hideaway Show Behind the Curtain. I'm Jordan Holmes. He's Mike Sebastian. Until next time, take care, everyone.